feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights. Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule!
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. Do us a favor. Go out there and subscribe to our channel. We are trying to grow that. We are getting a lot of views, so check that out. And we are in the middle of a block right now, and we're in the block that has to do with the Negro League and Negro League players who pretty much never got a shot at the old big time.
Nope.
And who we talking about today?
Today we got one of the coolest guys in Negro Leagues history. So cool, in fact, his nickname was Cool Papa. So we got
right.
Cool Papa Bell, everybody.
Cool Papa B.
James Thomas Nichols, born May 17th, 1903 in Starkville, Mississippi. His parents, Samuel and Mary. He was the fourth of 7 kids, according to a 1910 U.S. census.
Well, technically both. It was a sentence and a census.
That's pretty much
So
yes,
you weren't wrong.
I'm not wrong. His dad died shortly after he was born, though. Yep. His stepdad, his last name was Bell. So as a teenager, when he moves to St. Louis later, he ends up changing it because that's the reason was that I read it was his stepdad's last name.
Yeah.
Pretty much like that.
Yep.
As a teenager there in Mississippi, he worked at the creamery at what became Mississippi State University, which is that newfangled invention in the 1910s, ice cream. It was called the Mississippi State Agricultural Experiment Station.
I know. I didn't really get that when I was reading it. I was like, wait, did they mean crematorium?
Yeah.
Like, right. I was like, it was... And then I looked it up and I was like, no, they literally meant ice cream.
This tastes like death and bad decisions.
Oh, man.
In 1920, or actually, I did want to bring up, when he was a kid, it was all about baseball.
Yes.
Like we talked about with our last 2 Negro Leagues athletes. He helped on his granddad's farm, and at age 10, I don't know if you read this story, there were a bunch of adults playing, and they had him pitch at 10 years old, like against grown-ass men, because he started out as a pitcher.
That's right. He was an old school knuckleball pitcher.
Yes, he was knuckle-puckling and knuckling-balling it all the way
right.
in. And he struck out 8 of the 9 guys he faced.
Yes.
And then they asked him to hit, and this lady didn't want him to get up there and get hurt, which, oh boy... I hope it was like Chef's mom, like, oh, Lord, we forgot the victim child. Didn't want him out
Just
there
worried.
facing the Loch Ness Monster.
Yep.
So she gave him 350. No, he went up to hit, and he singled in his first at bat there and scored the winning run, and he got chocolate cake afterwards.
Nice.
Which I guess has to be the 1910s version of like Capri Sun and Gushers.
That's
like
so
you did
true.
At the end
Yeah.
of the game. Fuck oranges.
I was just going to say orange slices, the worst when that parent brought that. You're like, what are you doing?
Like, I'm not going to get scurvy, but I do want fruit by the foot.
And we are going to make this our grins in our mouth, our little grills, but we don't want to eat them.
No, absolutely not. Like, we're going to put them in our mouth and be like, whatever. But
yeah.
Anyway, he moved to St. Louis in 1920 with his brothers. His brother Fred also played baseball.
And he moved to St. Louis. He was supposed to be doing night school and working during the day. And they said that literally when he got there, it was all baseball. So it was a bigger city. And I bet there was just more opportunities for him to just pick up sandlot ball.
If you're left-handed and you pitch and you have a devastating out pitch like a knuckleball. People are going to want you to play that's not Major League Baseball.
That's right.
Like, everyone wants you to play, just not the gentleman's agreement.
That's correct.
Types. He signed as a knuckleball pitcher with the Compton Hill Cubs. They broke up in August 1921,
Yep.
So it lasted a year.
And then he moved to East St. Louis and played for another team called the Cubs, which I did find to be kind of funny, but he was getting paid $20 a month to just pitch on Sundays. So this is what I found so interesting. Even at age, 18, 19, he's still just considered a pitcher.
Yeah, but no one wants to move him because he's good.
Because he's good, yes.
So that first season in 22, he goes 7-7 in 12 starts, which for being 19 is quite good.
Yep.
And then he signs with the St. Louis Stars of the Negro National League in 1922. And
who would be considered the biggest team in St. Louis
Yeah.
for the Negro League. So like he definitely went up what would be considered like AA, AAA, but kind of like semi-pro.
I mean, excluding George Sisler, they're better than the St. Louis Browns of the American League in big league baseball.
That's true.
That was the season he got his nickname Cool for striking out Oscar Charleston, who we might do an episode on later. And then Papa was added later, which is just, they don't make them like that anymore.
Well, the rumor I heard about this, because they were just calling him Cool Bell, and he goes, it's just not cool enough.
It's not cool
And
enough.
then he literally put Papa in there himself, and he was like, start calling me Cool Papa Bell, and they were like, all right, that's pretty swift.
This dude is swag before that word is invented.
Yep.
If you really, he's what he'll turn into. You could argue he's the original Ricky Henderson.
Oh yes, 100%.
Like,
I love that.
That is kind of what you think about when we go through his career. That season in 24, so he batted right-handed and threw left-handed as a pitcher. But what his coach kind of figured out was, if you hit left-handed, you're closer to first base out of the box.
Yep.
So he learned to switch hit, and my God, that he just took off.
Well, and I feel like this is like 2021 is when his speed really took it to that next level where it was obvious he was faster than every other player out there. And like you were saying, once he became a switch hitter and started hitting from the left, it was like, no. We can't throw him out at first. That's what, like, it was crazy. And the pitchers wouldn't want to walk him because he would steal second and then steal third. And
steal home, like Ty Cobb, only be way less racist.
Exactly.
I did read this one story where Rube Foster, basically a Negro League pioneer, he wanted Cool Papa to race Jimmy Lyon, who was the fastest guy in the league. Cool Papa apparently had bad shoes on, and he still beat him.
Yep.
And I have to wonder, did the security guards just take his bed out of the facility, and then he ran in his pajamas like Willie Mays Hayes?
Hey, get that guy a uniform.
I'm wondering if that was correct.
You ever like watch a movie and you still remembering laughing at a part the way you laughed at it the first time?
Yes.
When he wakes up and goes, shit, I've been cut already? I laughed so hard at that. I can't even but I did hear it because he was like, yeah, he went to go get his track shoes, and Cool Papa was like, I'm running in my regular shoes, and he smoked him.
Oh my God. Kid, did you not bring shoes? Sandals?
I don't know.
Is this diet? Does it look like I need to be on a diet?
Take a lap.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
There's a steel toe in there.
That's one of my favorite episodes of It's Always Sunny, when Charlie's hammered, reffing the game, just blowing the whistle, blocking shots. God.
Mac puts the safety pin in the kid's wristband. Oh, God. So anyway, he transitions to center field, which is a perfect position for him. From what I read, he played it a lot like Tris Speaker, because almost like Ricky Henderson, too, he wasn't necessarily the best defensive outfielder.
Yep.
But he had just so much speed, so he plays so shallow.
Yes.
And just run everything down, which, I mean, granted, you need a guy on your pitching staff, but you also want someone to play every day. It's like the reverse Dave Stieb.
Nice. But
honestly,
I heard something that I found so interesting, because he was a pitcher. You would always think like, oh, he's got a strong throwing arm. He didn't.
He was a junk baller.
Yes, exactly. And that's what they said when they moved him to the outfield, that his speed made it to where he was a great outfielder. If he didn't have that, he would actually have been they probably wouldn't have even suggested moving him out there.
No.
Which I found really interesting, because you're right. He used to play shallow and just leg balls out,
for sure.
It's crazy.
Hit the ball on the ground and legging them out.
Yep.
So from 25 to 28, he was an absolute stud for St. Louis. During that span, he hit .331, scored 372 runs, hit 33 dingers, most of them inside the park.
Yep.
And led the Negro National League in runs from 25 to 27, stolen bases from 25 to 27, and doubles in 1925. Your perfect leadoff hitter, because he was so fast.
Yes, so fast.
In that year, they went to the Negro League World Series, but they lost to the Kansas City Monarchs in 7 games. And then they lost in 28 in 9 games to the American Giants, I guess we'll call them.
Okay.
He hit 407 in that series, and they still lost. 30 and 31. 1930, he was great. He hit 354. Again, they made it to the World Series, but they lost again.
I was going to say
he's got a lot in a row of his team not pulling it out.
Yes, I think they said he lost 5 World Series before he ended up winning one, or something like that. Where you're like, damn, that's wild.
31, he leads the league again in runs and stolen bases. And as we talked about in our other previous episodes, he kind of jumps around a little bit, kind of on loan.
Yep.
Because in 32, he finds himself on the Detroit Wolves of the East-West League. They were managed by Posey. He comes back.
And they end up going 29 and 13 after he joins them, and exactly like what you were saying, you start to see him bounce around to different leagues.
Yeah.
So he's plays in the Mexican League a little bit. He plays for the Kansas City Monarchs. It's really interesting to see these because so many of these teams would fold. So they would be on a team for 4 or 5 years, and they'd be like, you know what, guys, we don't have a league anymore.
We're closing up shop.
Yeah.
We can't pay our bills.
Exactly.
Please don't cash that last paycheck. 33, he joins basically the all-star team. We had talked about the Pittsburgh Crawfords.
Yep, and that's when he joins the Crawfords.
In 200 games, apparently, I don't know if it was this many. I don't know if it could have even been more. He allegedly stole 175 out of 180 bases.
Yes, I saw that where they were like, well, again, statistics weren't kept up with back in those days, but this is our best guess as to what he did in the Crawfords, because that was just like you said, an all-star team.
Oh, he's on first base, and here comes Josh Gibson. Fuck.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
In between those 33 and 34, he hit 314. And also led the league in hits in 1934, as well as stolen bases and walks in 33. So he could get on base.
Yep.
And that's the worst thing you can do with somebody like this. Don't let them on base.
Yep.
That's where they hurt you.
He's definitely, yes, that's exactly what he does. He gets into the pitcher's head. He's like the perfect leadoff hitter. And like we were saying, and so many people from that era say, they're like, he's the fastest man to ever play baseball. And you're like, well, I don't necessarily think that's true. He was definitely the fastest in his era by a mile.
Yeah, nobody could touch that guy. In 35, they end up winning the World Series. They beat the New York Cubans. He had kind of a down series, but he still led the league that year in runs and hit 345. And then in 36, he hits 291. And in 1937, kind of runs, basically really doesn't play that year from what I had read.
Well, there was some salary disputes.
Exactly.
So it's kind of hard to know exactly what happened, but it looked like owner of the Crawfords wasn't really paying everybody what he agreed or paying people at all. So it's, yeah.
So from 38 to 41, he goes overseas, as you had talked about before. And as a team, in 1938, he goes to the Dominican. Let's just get into it right now.
I was going to say, we've brought this up on a previous pod, and it is probably the most problematic team that was going around at that time, because this dictator in the Dominican Republic was like, I want to get a team. I wanted to show everybody my prowess of being like, this is my team and we're winning. And those guys were pretty much held at gunpoint to be like, if you guys don't win this, I mean,
you're not going back to America.
You're not going home. Yes.
Oh my God. Players or prisoners? Maybe a little bit of both. So basically threatened with violence to not lose games.
Yep.
They eventually won the league, but they didn't win by enough and dominate enough for the dictator's liking.
That's
Rafael
correct.
Trujillo. He was paid $30,000, and after that season, there was no organized baseball in the Dominican for 12 years.
I thought that was wild. I didn't catch that last time we were researching this.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what they said, was they just didn't I think they won by 4 games. And they were like, they just didn't win by enough games for us to put baseball back in the Dominican Republic.
That is the ultimate screw you guys, I'm going home.
Exactly.
So he's in the Mexican League from 38 to 41. In 38-39, he hits 356 and 350. So he goes down to this league and just rakes.
Yes.
Like, it's not only that he's, like, fast, now he's just feasting on pitching. Hits 356 and 354 for Tampico. And then in 1940, with Torreon and Veracruz, he won the Mexican League's first Triple Crown. That's amazing.
Yep.
I don't care what level. If you win a Triple Crown, that's ridiculous.
Did you hear about the story? So he was on first base, and I believe it was a wild pitch. Maybe it was like a single or something, but he went from first to third so fast that the opposite team were protesting. They were like, there's no way somebody could run that fast. He ran across the mound.
Yep.
And everybody that saw it was just like, no, he didn't. That's how fucking fast he was. And another, because there's like kind of a little bit of old interviews with him where they asked him, they were like, where did you get your speed from? And he just said, I was born with it. I've been fast my entire life. And I was like, hell yeah, that makes sense.
Well, if you're not first, Chris, you're last.
That's true.
I mean, there's no second or third or fourth. But
Hell, there's even fifth.
Going to Applebee's? So that year he won the Triple Crown. He had 437. He had 12 homers and 79 ribbies. The 12 home runs, though, 8 of the 12 were inside the park, which just speaks to,
Oh, God, you just reminded me in the Dominican League.
Yeah.
He hit 3 home runs in one game, which isn't, I mean, people do that all the time.
Yeah.
But
Paul O'Neill.
every single one of those home runs was inside the park.
That's amazing.
So you never hear of anybody hitting 3 in the park home runs, but that's how fast he was.
I don't even know if anyone's hit 2 before. Maybe in like the olden times when the stadiums just didn't end.
Yes.
With
those little pockets. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They won the pennant that year, and then in 1941 he led the league in hitting again.
Yep.
367. In 1942 he joins the Homestead Grays. Later, I think Pittsburgh Crawfords, which they still have a powerhouse team those years. So he's getting up there in age, but he's still playing baseball.
Yep.
They won titles in 43 and 44, and then they went back to the Negro World Series in 45, and then they lost. And that year, at age 43, he hit 396.
Which is insane. I also think it's a testament to how good the Grays were in this time when you look at their lineup, because they literally went back to back and then back to a World Series and barely lost. And you're like, yeah, that team was so stacked.
Guys, Josh Gibson just got out of the sanitarium. We're good.
Yes, exactly.
Cool Papa's on first. He's going to drive him in. But ends his career after that season. He went on to manage farm teams.
Player manager, which I kind of like that. And we were talking about this before the podcast because you're like, man, these guys all played up until like late 40s, 50s. And I wonder if they had that desire or if they were like, I'm going to be broke if I end up not playing. Because I think he literally played until he couldn't. And then he ended up becoming a scout for a little bit.
Yeah.
He
was a scout for the St. Louis Browns for 4 years. Bill Veeck actually tried to bring him back.
Yes.
In 1959, like with Satchel Paige, where he tried to bring him back, but he said he didn't want to be booed.
Yeah.
Which you see with like 99% of athletes where it's like, if I don't have it anymore, why would I go back out there?
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to look bad.
I don't want
to remember the good times.
Yeah, I don't want to be a shell of myself.
Yeah. And he also read that in addition, he was a security officer and custodian at the St. Louis City Hall until 1970. He also helped Jackie Robinson break into the major leagues by giving him a lot of advice. And he also helped base runners Maury Wills and Lou Brock, the last of which was until Rickey Henderson. The best all-time leader in stolen bases, which makes sense because he played for the Cardinals. But still, that's amazing. In 1974, he was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, like I think everyone we're going to be talking about here. Shame he never got to go to the major leagues, though.
There was this quote that I thought was so accurate when they started to talk a little bit about letting black players play in the MLB, the thing was we're looking for the right one. And that's when they found Jackie and shit.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll just throw my hand out and you could pick any one of these guys
Yeah.
would be the right one. And he also, because he was just talking about, he was just like, we just played a different style of baseball than the white athletes. It's almost like, you remember that one movie with, God, what was his name? Tom Selleck, and he goes to Japan.
Oh, Mr. Baseball.
Mr.
Yeah.
Baseball, and he yells at them for not diving. That's because he was just like, yeah, we would bunt. Like, I would lead off bunt just to mess with their minds because nobody's expecting a bunt. And then there would be situations where I would bunt and they would just crouch in and I would just swing away. And like, he was just like, it just made sense to us to play that kind of baseball where these white guys were just kind of being like, this is a gentleman's game.
Right.
Burp, 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 burp. And he was like, it was just so hard for us to break through. This is what he was saying, because we kind of played a different style than we almost played a game that would humiliate them out there.
They played the 80s Cardinals baseball.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what they did. Pitching, defense, base running.
Base run, yes.
Like, I mean, when you think about it now, almost that's an exciting brand of baseball, and I don't know if they necessarily wanted to, but that's a way to get asses in seats.
Yep.
Especially for a league where you're not the big leagues and you need to have athletes. So
it's for me, it's something constantly happening. You know what I mean? It's like every at bat, something's gonna. You know what I mean? It's not like
this guy's gonna score from first on a single.
Exactly.
Like,
which he did
multiple times.
Like, there's not even a one time where you're like, in 42. No, he did that so many times.
Oh, we call those Wednesdays.
Yes, exactly.
Score from first. No, I scored from first on a bunt. What?
Yeah.
Like, oh, God. Oh, man. I did read one really great quote because baseball is like what this guy was all about.
Yes.
Like, he made it his entire life. He said, because of baseball, I smelled the rose of life. I wanted to meet interesting people, to travel a lot, and have nice clothes. Baseball allowed me to do all those things. And most important, it allowed me to become a member of a brotherhood of friendship which will last forever. He's a team guy.
I love that.
And he loves baseball.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that they put him in the Hall of Fame along with the rest of these guys who never got a chance.
Because, yes, they very much deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's one of those things where you're like, God, I wish they had just put these guys in the MLB like 5 years before. You know what I mean? There were so many guys that were hitting their prime right at like 38, 39. Like, you saw how ridiculously well he did in the Mexican League. And you're like, what if that was the MLB?
Yeah, exactly.
He hit 400, whatever, when he was 42.
437 when he's like 40 years old.
It's crazy.
And that's the thing. I think I even brought it up in the Black Sox episode. If they started letting these guys play in like the 20s and 30s, and this style of baseball was like normal at that time, I don't think baseball would have attendance issues now. I don't think it would lose popularity in comparison to football and other sports. Like, man, you had the golden goose and you just said, no, don't lay eggs. Just sit there.
Exactly.
Just sit there because we have an agreement.
And what about steroids and the Philly fanatic? I have to say that because I can't say fanatic.
I'm just going to scale the facade.
But I think you were exactly correct with this, where baseball, and we've brought this up on episodes before, where baseball just is like 10 years too late, 20 years too late. They'd rather live in shit than work a shuttle, which is just so crazy because they were the ones with the opportunity. Baseball was the sport, and they were literally like, no.
Oh, could you imagine how much it would have chapped Ty Cobb if they called him the white cool Papa Bell?
That would have been my favorite.
God.
That would have been my favorite. But I bet because Ty Cobb was so into winning, he was just like, nah, I'm not racist anymore. These guys are like, literally, that's how good these guys are, is they would overcome this asshole's racism.
I'm just going to do what they're doing.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm also going to learn a few things and just be even more badass.
The way Ty Cobb played was the way the Negro League players played.
Yeah.
In that where he was like, I'm legging out everything.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hell yeah, dude.
Oh, man. So he ended up dying of a heart attack March 7th, 1991. The St. Louis Cardinals have a bronze statue of him.
Right out in front.
Outside the stadium. And he's in the Washington Nationals Ring of Honor for playing with the Grays there.
The Grays.
Back in the day. And then on May 13th, 2021, Mississippi State, which is a huge baseball program, they have a Cool Papa Bell Plaza there at the stadium.
Yep.
Around the base, which I think is great.
With a road, too, named after him. Yeah.
Oh, man. He's so cool, Chris.
Well, I saw somebody say they were just like, I think the road goes like 20, 30 miles per hour. It really should have been a highway. And I was like, that's great.
Perfect.
That's great.
Speed limit? There is no speed limit. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Exactly.
We're going to score from first base on a single for Cool Papa Bell. But like literally the Ricky Henderson, pre-Ricky Henderson.
Yes.
If you just think about his skill set and how good he was and what he did, you're never going to find a player like that again.
Yep. And he started off as a knuckleballer. That was something that I absolutely love, where, yeah, God, I really liked Cool Papa Bell.
And it wasn't like he was crappy either. He probably could have made a career pitching.
No, seriously, yeah.
Just like get on base. Play every day.
Yeah, play every day. I think that's what it was more like. It was like, no, you're fine at pitching. We just want you to bat every single day.
You're going to score like 6 runs every game.
Yes.
But Cool Papa Bell, everybody.